November 27th Sewer Commission meeting, and in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. We're going to officially open the second of two public hearings. The prior one was held on October 30th, 2018. We're going to first go over the irrigation meter policy. We're adding policy into Sewer Use Regs Article V11-3D2, Appendix K, updates from hearing and 11/6/18 meeting. Add the fee assessment date of first quarterly bill for the new fiscal year. Change date to June 2020 and remove approved meter. We'll go through this in detail. Remove approved meter, TBD, and change effective date to February 1st, 2019. Now there's a PowerPoint that I know they have. I don't know if it's on there or not. I can't see the screen. Going over all these things, so I can briefly go through all this. And I think does this accompany, does this have the new 11.6 notes in there? Probably not.
Does what?
The 11.6 meeting notes isn't in this PowerPoint though, right?
No, that was just his presentation from the first public hearing on the 30th of October.
Okay.
So it may not have, I didn't notice that it had updates.
Single meter. Is this all the single meter?
Yes,
Oh,
let's
there's like
hand
20
out.
of them.
What are you looking for?
The irrigation.
Yep. I thought I gave it to you.
Yeah, you did too. Oh, I put it underneath my agenda. You did
There
give
you
it to
go.
me. All right. Okay, so 2016 Yale Town Meeting Article 36 bylaw change to add regulation change procedure. Regulations can have significant impact on residents and businesses, establishments, and currently can happen at any posted open meeting with only a majority vote of the sewer commission. And this is the case with several towns and boards and commission. This just goes over on how we're trying to improve public awareness. The goal is to improve public awareness of and participation in the regulation change process. Better notification via 2 separate notices in local paper, 5 versus 2 working day notice of public meeting hearings, and televised and available over YouTube to reach broader audience. I should note that this is all Carl Luck's presentation I'm reading from. So the sewer bylaw change approved at town meeting. It was a 9.0 regulation changes. The sewer commission will establish a draft of proposed changes during regular properly posted open meetings. Once there is consensus on the proposed changes, a formal hearing will be scheduled and will take place over 2 regularly scheduled meetings. Both hearings will be televised. This is the second. A notice of the hearing will be put in a local newspaper at least 5 business days prior to the hearing dates. At the discretion of the sewer commission, the hearing may be continued to the next consecutive open, regularly scheduled meeting. Once the hearing is closed, the final changes will be drafted and voted on. The proposed and approved changes will be posted on the commission's town website. So this just goes over how these policy changes happen. We have there was a slide here on what the irrigation meters are used for. Sewer user charges are based on the water that goes into the residence or businesses. The assumption is that most of the water going into the house ends up in the wastewater collection system for processing. Lunenburg pays Leominster and Fitchburg to process our wastewater based on this assumption. In a few cases, a significant amount of this water does not contribute to the wastewater that goes into our neighboring communities and therefore does not add to our local actual costs. Some example of this are irrigation, filling pools, and known water leaks, etc. Irrigation meters can be installed by customers at their expense and per this policy to measure how much water entering the location is used for irrigating their property, therefore does not enter the sewer system. These meters are used to adjust customer sewer use charges by subtracting the metered amount from the usage bill. The motivation for change. Of our roughly 900 user customers, only about 55 users have irrigation meters. The current policy does not specify what meters are to be used or what happens if the meter does not operate correctly. Since all of our water input meter information comes from the entity that provides the water, we do not take meter readings for regular usage. As a result, the Sewer Commission has had to contract out the irrigation meter reading, which is currently absorbed into our system operating costs and spread over all users via the usage fee rate. This activity also creates extra work for the business manager and contractor, not only at the time of billing, but also at other times throughout the year, applications, meter, reading issues, tracking, billing issues, things like that. All of these issues create extra costs driven by irrigation meter use, and the commission feels that these costs could more appropriately be covered by the small number of users benefiting from this policy. So what is being proposed? The Sewer Commission Specify what meter is to be used with the goal of reducing overall cost for implementation of this policy. The identification of the approved meter is ongoing. We would encourage all interested parties to participate in the investigation and final selection, as it could have far-reaching implications on immediate and long-term customer costs. That it will be the customer's responsibility during the application process to provide documentation that the installation has been inspected by the plumbing inspector. That the user be clearly made responsible for using an approved meter, and that they are responsible for proper operation of the meter. All existing meters are required to be upgraded by June 2019, but I believe we actually changed to June 2020.
Yep.
There will be a $25 fee if a meter requires an addition reading due to a faulty operation. And finally, the cost of the administrating the irrigation policy be directly covered by the users of this policy via an annual irrigation fee of $50. To simplify the process and reduce costs, this fee will be automatically deducted from the user savings accredited to the account bill. Going into the actual changes, proposed irrigation meter, Section A. Installation requirements. In order for a property owner to install an irrigation system on their property, they must have a licensed plumber pull a plumbing permit with the town clerk. Homeowners can contract with a licensed plumber to obtain a plumbing permit at the town clerk's office and have an approved irrigation meter installed at their residence, readable from the outside. The plumbing inspector for the town must inspect the irrigation meter installation. Section B, change permitting. When the plumbing inspector signs off on the installation, the property owner shall provide a copy of the signed off plumbing permit to the sewer commission along with an irrigation meter application. Once approved by the sewer commission, the location is added to the irrigation meter reading process, timed to coincide closely with the date that the water department takes their readings. Section C, billing and credit. At the time of billing, the irrigation reading is deducted from the water reading and the homeowner receives a reduced bill for the water not entering the sewer pipes. The minimum charges apply at all times, and at no time does the irrigation meter credit reduce the usage amount to below minimum charge. The credit will be given twice per year at the time of July and October billing. In Section D, owners responsibility for meters and proper operation. At all times, the property owner is responsible for purchase, installation, proper operation, and accuracy of the approved meter. If the meter readings are questioned by the sewer commission and/or found to be in question, it is the property owner's responsibility to have it serviced. Until such time as the meter is confirmed to be proper operating condition, there will be no credits given. If there is a problem with the meter and an additional visit reading is required, there will be a charge of $25, which will be automatically deducted from the next irrigation meter credit. Proposed irrigation meter, Section E, F, and G. Meter requirements and fee. As the effective date of this policy, November 30th, 2018, all new installations or replacement meters must comply with all requirements set forth by the Sewer Commission or as specified in the irrigation meter policy.
That effective date was changed to
Yeah.
February 1st, 2019.
The effective date is now February 1st, 2019. There will be an annual fee of $50 for each irrigation meter. This fee will be deducted each year from the irrigation credit. If no credits are taken or they are less than $50 in any year, the fee will be added to the fiscal year quarterly sewage bill. The approved irrigation meters, as discussed, is still still TBD, and all existing meters must be upgraded to comply with this policy prior to June 2020. Section H, failures to comply. Failures to comply with this policy will prevent any credits from being applied to the property owner's quarterly sewer invoice. Some of the updates I think we already went over. Yep, we went over it all. Okay, so that's the irrigation meter policy.
Right, and one of the things we added was that the fee would be deducted on the first quarterly sewer usage invoice
Right.
of the new fiscal year.
Now, is that $50 fee? Is that a new fee? Has that always been the fee?
No, it's never been a fee.
There's never
That
been.
is a new.
That is a new fee. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Joe, will you put that microphone there? Use this one,
Absolutely.
or
You can, I don't know, you can sit there.
you can sit there and use
I'm
bars.
I'll probably be brief, so I could use this one.
Did you use this? No.
It's okay. It's fine. I can use them. You're good.
Dave Pastios, 56 Whiting Street. I caught wind of this just recently. I totally missed the first hearing, but I did watch it on YouTube in the last couple of days. Couple of questions, and I missed while you were shuffling dates around there that have been adjusted, so on and so forth. Yeah, I'd like to have one just to review later. These regulations that will be supposedly approved tonight with the closing of the second hearing, when do they actually go into effect?
February 1st, 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
For the fee.
I think for the
That was 2020.
for this irrigation
I think the general policy goes into effect then, right?
Yeah.
Including the fee.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. One of my issues is that this commission has not decided on what meter is going to be the required meter, so there's no way for a homeowner to know what the cost is going to be to purchase a meter and have it installed. For sites, I'm sure that of the 50 or 55 that are out there, most of them will not comply with what you're looking for a meter. I've held off on mine. For one of the reasons I held off was that for that particular reason. I actually have the original water meter that was on my property hooked to my line coming into the property from the water district when they converted all of their meters over, and they did it at their cost. There was no cost to the consumer. The $50 fee in many cases for a homeowner is also, and compared against the credit and the cost to install and purchase a meter is going to be more than the credits for many homeowners for a number of years. So the incentive is not to do this, but then we end up paying for flow that does not go through that pipe. And I don't know how we remedy that, but paying for a service we're not getting is my problem.
Yeah, I agree with one of the problems being that we haven't picked out a meter yet. We've discussed that as well, that it's kind of an issue.
But putting a policy in place that hasn't specified what the equipment needs to be is putting the cart before the horse as far as I'm concerned.
But if I'm not mistaken, please correct me, Joe, if I am, the meter is not have to be put in, the new meter is not have to be put in until 2020. Mm-hmm. So we're not saying you have to have a new meter by February 1st.
Right, but the thing is,
Change in the meter doesn't occur till then. And also, the two different meters that we looked at, the two different policies, were not astronomically different in cost, and we're trying to find things that will retrofit with existing heads. There's a brass head on existing meters.
I'm familiar with meters.
Right, and so we're trying to get one that will work with that head.
My
minimize
point is
cost.
that if I choose to put a meter in on January 1st of this year, it may not be compliant with what you ultimately decide to put in there, and then I'm sunk. I've got to change the meter again. And again, like I say, trying to generate the fees and the cost of installing the meter and so on and so forth. In my instance, especially this year in a wet year, I won't generate enough credits to even cover the $50 fee. The other thing I question, and I don't know if the numbers have been pulled out separately, is that has this board segregated the actual dollar amount to service these meters and read these meters? Do you have an actual number, or did you just pick a $50 fee out of a hat that this should cover it?
Do we have an actual number itself?
I don't think it's not going to actually cover it. It covers, it was in the beginning and they didn't want to make it too.
But have those numbers been tabulated and made available?
No.
So we're basing a fee on a
Let
number that
Barbara
we don't
finish.
have. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but we have a contractor go out and read the meters. It takes him at least 8 hours, sometimes more, to make the rounds 4 times a year. And it's just the administrative burden of monitoring these 50-plus accounts and the issues from them. So it was just an attempt to get something back that the general public isn't paying for, that the meter customers would help defray.
That was my understanding too when we originally discussed it, that the $50 does not cover both the administrative fee and the hands-on walking fee. So it's not covering the whole thing. It's helping to defray the cost
Right.
of these particular subgroup. That
Right.
doesn't, it's a subgroup. And we want to spread that cost over all the users. We want to spread that cost, some of it over the subgroup using it.
My experience with the city of Fitchburg 25 or 30 years ago, I mean, this isn't a new thing. City of Fitchburg has done this for many, many years. I was manager of a manufacturing operation that used a large volume of water that ended up as production steam, so that water never went down the sewers. There was a separate meter. It was read by the customer twice a year. Card was filled out, sent into the water department, and they processed the bill, and they came out, I believe, it may have been read by the customer twice a year, but it was verified once a year. And I don't know what they do today, but I know that was the process back then. Also, there, while you're looking at meters, there are electronic meters available now that can be read remotely.
That's what we
We're
have.
looking at, that's what
Yeah,
we're,
there's two of them we looked at.
But we still have 8 hours worth of time. In other words, somebody's got to drive around.
You gotta
town to
drive
be
around with
within
the
a certain
radiator.
distance.
Correct.
Okay. Whereas there are meters available, and in fact, all of the solar systems in town communicate through the cell phone system.
Yeah, we're looking at those ones too.
I get a 15-minute interval record of what my solar panels are doing.
we have been studying both of those in
Yep.
detail, but those don't eliminate the administrative costs that Barbara, going through account by account, pulling these accounts out and deducting.
Yep.
And it's, her
The
time.
the last comment I'll make about comments, and I mean about costs, and I understand that in the early days, the rates and the costs were not balanced properly from the period of time when Phase 2 was completed in town. But I remember my first sewer bills as being $9, $15, based on my water usage. Today, it's the minimum or, $30 or $40 above that. I live alone in a single-family home. There aren't 6 kids taking showers and stuff. So I'm looking at $400 a year in sewer cost and $400 a year or about that in water costs. And I agree that, I'm not comparing apples to apples there. I know that there were issues with the rates, the way they were originally set. But I also, again, have not had a chance, and I will have time next week, to compare local sewer rates with what the residents of Lunenburg were paying, even the minimum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is the only change on single meter, is this one section. All right, next is single meter policy, incorporating single meter policy into the sewer use regs, Article V11-3B. Update regs with effective date to implement changes as of effective 2/1/19. So it's a section B, single meter requirement, effective February 1st, 2019, except as provided herein, sewer accounts will only be recorded in the name of the recorded property owner, even if the property contains a condominium form of ownership, contains manufactured housing units or the like. The commission will only read the official meter permitted and utilized for the water account of the property. The commission will not read any individual or sub-meters unless each and every one of those sub-meters serves an individual dwelling and those dwelling units are served by separate and individual water accounts. The record owner shall be held responsible for any and all payments for sewer services recorded on the individual meters, and therefore the property served by that meter as a whole be subject to any service termination or other necessary actions for non-payment. Appointment or assessment of sewer service costs between individual complexes, units, or owners served by the single meter is the responsibility of the record property owner. Any sub-metering is at the sole discretion of and is the responsibility of the record property owner. The sub-meters will not be recognized or read by the commission. The commission may, in its discretion upon written application after a public hearing, vary any of the requirements of this paragraph provided the applicant demonstrates that the requirement imposes a unique and particular hardship, financial or otherwise, and that the said variance will not be substantially detrimental to the purposes of these regulations.
I have a question.
Sure. Well.
I'm Karen Carnavalli, and I'm manager of the Whalen Village. And the question I have is it says here, implementation of the single meter policy, and there's a $50 annual fee. So is that saying we're also being charged a $50 annual fee for you to read the meter?
The $50 annual fee for the single meters?
for you to read this one meter?
Yes. That isn't it?
No, the $50 fee is only on this irrigation meters. We're provided the reading for the
Oh, for the single meter, yeah, we're doing that. Yeah, there's no $50 fee for that.
Okay, so you're not charging us on that. Okay. So even, and the other question is, even though each unit, each mobile home has their own water meter, you still do not want to read that water meter. You only want to read just the one main meter coming in.
Correct. Two, yeah, there's two.
Two, both. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the connection charge policy, adding info on I&I, sewer use regs, Article V11-4, Appendix G. Oh, Ryan, just gotta read that one.
Do you want me to read the whole policy or just the?
Just the stuff that's in red. Just the new.
All right. In addition, a charge of $2 per gallon based on Title V flow criteria for I&I and flow and infiltration. The sewer reconnection charge is a flat $1,000 fee to apply to sites previously connected that were either demolished or replaced, and reconnection is necessary, requiring a subsequent inspection by sewer department personnel. Section 4.1, I&I removal and/or capacity fee. For all new connections to the municipal sewer where proposed flows exceed 15,000 gallons per day, the proponent must remove 4 gallons of I&I for every gallon per day of wastewater flow to be discharged. If there are not sources of I&I, which at the discretion of the commission are appropriate for removal at the time of the permit, a monetary fee may be required. The revenue generated from the capacity fee shall be used towards reduction of I&I through studies to identify sources of I&I or remediation of known sources of I&I. This fee will be based on peak design flows and current treatment and transportation costs. That's it.
That's it. Next up is grease trap rules and regs, updating Appendix C and sewer use regs.
That's me.
Yes.
Okay, there are 2 proposed changes to the grease trap regulations. The first change is in Section 3 definitions, and there is presently a sentence in there saying that both the owner of the premises where a grease trap is required and the owner or operator of the establishment or business conducted on the premises shall be jointly and serially responsible for installing a grease trap acceptable to the commission, comma, this is the new part, for properly servicing and maintaining the grease trap and for payments of all fees associated therewithin, including but not limited to non-compliance fees. The second change in the grease trap regulation is not really a change in policy. It is simply a change in wording of the policy. The first thing, we are going to change from July 1st to August 1st of each year for the permitting fee due. And then we have reworded the regs to make them clearer for each type of renewal. And it says, rates are based on compliance during the preceding permit year, including but not limited to properly completed logs and reports and timely maintenance. Establishments with internal grease traps only. Establishments that were fully compliant will have an annual permit fee of $150. Establishments with violations in compliance will have an annual permit fee of $350. There's no change in the amount of those fees. It's simply we reworded the regs to remove a lot of verbiage. The second part, establishments with external grease traps, establishments that were fully compliant will have an annual permit fee of $450, and establishments with violations in compliance will have an annual permit fee of $650. The last change is the final sentence in that section, and it says, no renewal application will be accepted or processed for any property with outstanding unpaid fees or penalties.
Thank you.
There's one more? Oh, is it way at the end? Okay.
Next to the last page, Section 7, violations.
Yep, sorry. Under Section 7, violations and penalties, We have said, removed the phrase saying assessed every 2 weeks until compliance is achieved. Thank you, Barb.
Okay. So that's the end of the updates. Anybody else have anything from the public? Since you're the only person out there, I don't know. Okay, so we're going to announce that this is the closing of the hearing of policy updates. And now we need to take votes. So I need to request motions for approving. Do we go policy by policy? Yeah, so I need a motion to approve the irrigation meter policy.
Make a motion to approve the irrigation meter policy.
Give me a second. No second.
Oh,
You don't have to second. I don't know if there's a second for the irrigation meter policy.
Sounds like a maybe.
yeah.
It's quite all right not to if you don't if you don't think it's ready.
If we don't approve it tonight, what's the?
Yeah, what are the
Just go back.
consequences?
We do it
We
again.
can go back and we pick the meters first.
There's no consequences. We just
Right.
continue.
Republic hearing it.
That,
Yeah.
yeah. What's the timeline?
Two televised.
Would
So
be a while.
A month. Anyway.
I'm going to second it. Go ahead.
All right.
Discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna open it up for discussion now.
And I just want to say, it was written generally so that it's still covering, because we have current policy out there. And it was written to be generic enough that it covers
Yeah.
current. And it really just implements.
And the implementation is not till 2020 for the new meter.
For the new meter.
Yeah,
meter,
that
yes.
Begins the first fiscal.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then all
we bumped it up a
approved
year.
meters, once decided, are June 2020.
Yeah. That's fine.
Discussion.
Discussion. I support the additional $50 fee, but I can't vote yes on this without knowing what meter we're going to be using.
Yeah, I tend to agree with John. And Mr. Passio's brought up good points. It's been a part of contention that we've been talking about this whole time. Is if we don't have the meters, how do you tell someone, okay, well, you have until June 2020, that's all well and good. But if a situation comes up where, like Mr. Passio's pointed out, someone wants to put an irrigation meter in, say, this spring or something like that, and we haven't had a choice yet, and then they have to go do it again. I mean, these meters are pretty expensive, right? They're not cheap. So,
Well, part of the problem is, like, I have a newer meter, and depending which system we go with, maybe it could be adapted fairly inexpensively. I don't know, but I know I'm not the only one out there like that.
right.
And I just feel uncomfortable voting to approve this without knowing which meter we're going with. I mean, the research that Joan did,
I
she
was
came
gonna
up with
say,
two
yeah.
meters that I think they're both viable options. And it sounds like that older meters can be adapted.
As
But I
if
would
they
feel
have
more
the
comfortable.
brass head. I don't think there's that big a difference in cost between the two meters we're looking at. So I'm not really nervous about the cost because I think it's going to be in the ballpark for either one. I just want to make sure that people have sufficient time. I don't think anyone's going to be putting in an irrigation meter in January or February.
No.
And so we have 2 months at least, maybe 3, before we're going to have to name it. And it's not like we're starting from scratch. We've already done the research. We've had the vendors in. We looked at both. We've checked references with both. I mean, we're close to picking one of 2 favorable options. Both options are good. So I don't think it's going to be like May and we're still saying, gee, which meter are we going to use? I think we're close. And I don't think anybody's going to be installing them in the dead of winter.
Is the hiccup Wi-Fi or not Wi-Fi?
Yes.
That's.
Well, we have options. We
Yeah.
have
Yeah, it's cloud-
drive-by and we have
cloud
Wi-Fi.
and
Yeah,
stuff
that's
like
the
that.
only thing. And they're both good options. I mean, I checked 5 or 6 references for each one, and both were very positive.
I mean, are we going to have to change this policy again when we pick a meter?
No, because it says the selected meter.
But
No, well, that was one of the changes from 11.6, was that we were just removing that line, approved meter. So the approved meter language isn't even in there.
So what makes people have to use a approved meter? What do you mean it's not in there?
What did I do with it? Where we were specifying that the approved meter was to be advised
Yeah.
was removed.
So how's it read now?
So it's just meter requirements as of the effective date of the policy, February 1, 2019. All new installations or replacement meters must comply with the requirements set forth by the commission or be as specified in the irrigation meter policy. There will be an annual fee of $50. The fee will be deducted if no credits are taken. So it's very general, that it can still cover people installing meters that, like they have in the past.
So it doesn't actually list that you have to use a specific meter?
No.
It just talks about doing the permit because we didn't have a meter to.
Is it coming up on the agenda? Did we ever pencil it in?
To have a workshop to discuss the meters.
Yeah, did we?
I think.
No, we haven't had a workshop.
Well, I'm not even sure we need a workshop. I mean, we had 2 vendors in, we talked about the references, I called all the different towns using them, checked everybody's, it's just a matter of
It doesn't say
taking a
anywhere in
vote on
here.
which one we're gonna use.
It's like 3 months ago anyway.
Yeah.
Says all new installations.
Yeah, all new installations are replaced. That's all it says, though. So according to this, you actually don't need to have a specific meter.
Well, right. And the current policy as it stands was just that it, can be read in cubic feet and meter readable from the outside and so.
So when we pick a new meter, they don't actually have to change it as long as it meets all the as long as their current meter meets all those requirements.
Well, no, I think.
No, they'd have to change it by 2020.
Right.
2020.
So where's that 2020 thing in here? I know it's in here
That's
somewhere.
the first line of meter requirements, as of the, no. The next line, on the next page, all existing meters must be upgraded to comply with this policy prior to June 2020.
Yeah, but that doesn't say that you have to use a specific meter. It just says that it has to comply.
Right, but it's, right.
With
first line is
with
all
the
new-
meter we haven't chosen yet.
You can put in a new meter now, and then if we switch to Wi-Fi, you'd have to put a head on it.
Well, I would recommend that the commission simply pick the meter.
Yeah.
We've done all the research.
You can't even do that. Because
Not tonight, Joe.
No,
I'm
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about this, if you say as of effective date of this policy, it needs to comply with all requirements set forth by us, right? And what are the requirements are supposed to be in this policy, correct?
Right, or when the meter is selected, that's going to be, it's not going to be clearly noted out in this policy. But if the commission chooses an irrigation meter, then that's the approved meter of the commission.
Okay.
It's not.
Anybody else have any discussion? Yeah, I don't think it's clear at all. Anybody have any further discussion on it?
Nothing that I haven't already said. I just, I know last meeting I expressed some concern about voting for this based on not knowing which meter, and I think we pushed the date from 1919 to 1920 then, but I still can't support this without knowing which meter we're going with.
Okay. All in favor of approving the irrigation meter policy?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
So I don't know either, it's split. So we'll move on. Single meter policy.
We will
We'll have to,
table it till.
you can't have to, yeah.
We can pick a meter in between.
You can resend all the stuff.
No, it's not, that has nothing to do, that's
I know.
not, I'm gonna take another crack at this thing. Request a motion for the single meter policy?
I make a motion that we accept the single meter policy as written.
Second?
Second. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Take a motion for the connection charge policy?
I make a motion that we change the connection charge policy.
Second.
Any discussion on the connection charge policy? All in favor? Aye.
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 Yeah, I know. And motion to approve the grease trap rules and regulation policy changes.
I make a motion to approve the grease trap regulation changes.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay. So we need to table irrigation meter policy and bring it back up. Announcements? Barb?
Just that the Q2 quarterly, oh, sorry, thank you. The Q2 bills did get out on the 16th of November, and for the public, if anyone has not received them, call the sewer office or the collector's office for the amount due. You can pay them online on the Lunenburg website.
Great. Public comment from the board? Public comment from public?
Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street again. I'd like to thank you for postponing the decision on the irrigation meters. I'm sure it wasn't all from my comments. I got to feel that there were some issues that a couple of commission members had anyway. But I would ask that you, when you move forward on approving the meter, make sure that the meters that get approved, or the meter that gets approved, is going to suffice for the long term, including Wi-Fi capability. I also wonder if it's ever been explored, even for a small fee, that the water department's reading entity, whoever does that, could read the sewer meters at the same time, the irrigation meters at the same time. I'm sure they're a different frequency, or can be a different frequency, and be read the same time they drive around and do theirs, and save some money.
And if we have Wi-Fi, we don't need anybody to drive.
Correct.
Right.
Right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Current business, special town meeting, 1113, Article 5 approved, transfer to stabilization fund for reserve capacity. Inflow infiltration on Elizabeth Street remediation. I read that really wrong in my head. Council's advice for reparation, issuing notice of violation.
I got it here.
I think we have something in here somewhere. In our lovely packet, right?
From Weston Sampson? That one, yeah.
Yeah, I had included
It's the
some Pat Cotton's notation back in September
Oh, yeah.
about televising or, cameraing the lines. I know the council's ready to produce a notice of violation, but it was still unclear when Weston Sampson had found that flow of which exact residence it is. And I did talk with Pat in September, and his recommendation was that we should probably camera the line. Because we're not sure which resident, we know which manhole, but it's fed by 2 different residences.
So we need council approval before we go on their property, right? Is that what?
Well, I think his whole process was
Okay.
originally to do, provide the notice of violation.
All right.
And then work out how we want it remedied. But I don't know if we want to do it to 2 residences if only one is in violation. So it's a discussion.
and there's no other way without camera I think, to determine which.
And that's what Pat has said, that we need a special camera that can go up.
Correct.
Did he mention the cost of?
Yeah, where do we go from there?
I don't remember. I don't believe he did.
Say everything you just said over
No, I don't believe he did.
Well, I mean, cost is always a hot issue, but if it's a problem, if it's such a big problem that we're actually going to consider cameraing it, we have to do it. I mean, if it's...
Oh, I
if it's-
agree. I just wanted to know if Pat had suggested what it might cost. Oh, I agree with
We
you,
can
John.
administer fines. Maybe that could be based on the cost of it, or would that exceed?
Right. And I know the intent was, I think Carl's hope was that the homeowners would pay for that cost, but if we don't
Because
know
before that,
exactly which.
it says seek judicial enforcement. So
So how do we go about getting these cameraing going on? Good.
we just need your commission's approval, if that's what we want to do.
Sounds like it's kind of what we have to do.
I'm sorry, Joe, I couldn't hear you.
I said it sounds like it's what we have to do. That we have to camera the
I
lines.
agree with you completely.
The problem is, do we assess, so I know Carl wanted to assess the fee to the homeowners themselves. It's kind of a tough sell, but not that it's not right. I don't know how you go about doing that.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, these are the connection pipes. These are not the main pipes on the sewer road. These are the ones that they had
Yeah.
to pay to put in themselves to connect.
And they didn't.
And they're responsible for the maintenance of those pipes.
Right.
Correct.
So do you throw the option out there to the homeowners to have their own company TV, camera these lines? Or do we enforce that we have our people come in and camera these lines?
I think it's fine if we allow them to have their own people, as long as they are certified, licensed
No, agreed.
engineering company. Maybe we can say, here's 3 engineering companies. You can pick any one of these 3 that are approved for this kind of work. You don't want them trying to get someone in there who's not qualified.
So can we reach out to these homeowners and state exactly that this is going to have to happen?
My concern is that one is guilty and one is not.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So you're putting costs on people. And
Right. Asking them to investigate it at a cost.
what part of the budget would this come out of?
That's our I&I. That's our purchase of service.
Can we get a price quote from Pat?
I will.
I don't want to put any undue burden on people.
Right.
If it has nothing to do with them. If it's a low fee, and I'm not saying that we're doing this, but maybe we eat the cost and figure it out ourselves rather than, and then find the guilty party. Let both these homeowners know that we're gonna do this. If you are the guilty party, there's a chance that this cost goes on to you or something like that,
I can check with.
rather than assess the fee to both.
Yeah.
Right, you'd
No,
have to
no,
check
I'm
with
with you.
council on that one, I think.
Yes.
yeah.
So why don't we run that get the cost from Pat and run that by Adam, or
Okay.
is it even Adam? This is
Yep.
West Sampson. So yeah, run it by town council. See what our options are.
Yeah, on how
Can we
to
even do that?
recoup the cost.
Yeah.
Okay,
From the guilty party.
the guilty party,
Instead of
right.
splitting it equally.
right.
Yeah, because that's really not fair.
Okay. I'll get a price from West End Sampson and check with council.
Okay. All right, thanks. The open meeting law complaints of 511, we received the Attorney General response agreeing with the council's summary. 1119, I know Carl wanted me to kind of go over this a little bit. This is from an email I got from Carl that he would like to have it highlighted that not only did the AG agree with town council's assessment, but that they also commended the commission twice on acknowledging the violation and taking action at the May 8th meeting to make public all information that was shared unknowingly violated the open meeting law earlier in the same day. So he just wanted to,
We had our group training.
yeah, he wanted to highlight it that we took care of it. But it was a violation, and we knew that, and we rectified it. Q2 commitment of $219,704.53.
Right. 2 pages. 2 pages,
Sign both pages, is that what you're saying?
please.
One of us is going to forget. Let's see who it is. Two pages. Okay. Business manager report.
First, minutes of 11:06.
Oh, I'm
if
sorry,
I
I
may.
skipped right over that. Yeah. Minutes of 11:06. Everybody, take a look at the minutes.
Yep.
Anybody have any comments or changes they'd like to make?
Nope.
Take a motion to approve the minutes of 11:06:18.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from the 11/6.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain, I wasn't at the meeting.
Fair enough. All right, business manager report.
Okay. The first Tuesday report that I said I would provide at this meeting, they were all compliant,
Awesome.
so they're all in, and no further actions had to be taken.
Great.
I have Fitchburg's and Lemonster's, Fitchburg's monthly and Lemonster's quarterly bills for your review and initial. Lemonster's was for the quarter 72,124.35. I agreed basically with the information that both they provide as water usage and I provide as Lunenburg water usage going out. And Fitchburg's monthly is 18,878.29.
Do their rates fluctuate at all? Like,
Their rates?
Yeah.
No, they went up in April of this year. So this is all, amounts are fluctuating only by usage.
Transfer delinquency.
That's not, has not happened as of yet because we're waiting for rates to be approved. So that has not, and also the FY19 recap, I will be doing up a letter for Karen that needs your signature, so I will be in touch.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Members' agendas. Members' agenda inputs for future meetings.
I think we should get on in the near future which irrigation meter we want. We did
Yeah.
a lot of research, we did a lot of work. We're close. I think we should actually bite the bullet on that.
I know which one I want.
I know which one I want, too. I'm the one who did all the research.
I agree with you, Joan, that we need to get that done quickly. The information's there, I just,
We'll put that on the next agenda. Next agenda.
okay.
Yeah, you're right. We gotta get it done. And you did a lot of work on it, so there's nothing really holding us back.
You're gonna do it in the 11th?
Yep. Yes, yeah, the 11th. That'll be at the DPW. Anybody else? I have a long list of things already.
It didn't make it on the,
Members?
sorry. And it's not a future, it's public comment, never mind.
What do you got?
I just wanted to clarify that I did send out that MRPC guidebook for the planning board, and I've submitted it, so I haven't, it's basically just the process.
Okay.
Just wanted you to make note of that, so.
Thank you very much. Public comment? That's good. Public comment? No. All right, motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, thanks, everybody.